Let's take a walk through a full Rill project. So I have installed Rill Developer on my machine. I have cloned a Git repository with the project to my machine. I've pulled down some credentials so that I can access the data, and now I'm ready to explore. Now the full structure, all of the files in the 100% BI as code project are visible down the left hand side in the sidebar. Incidentally, if you can't see that, you may have to open the side panel. And you can also see for any end user view, such as the dashboard here, the breadcrumbs along the top for how this has been built out. So I have an Explorer that relies on a metrics view, that relies on a model, that relies on a source. And that is the core project of a Rill project, with the model being optional. So I can flip to, for instance, the bids Explorer, and I can see that as a simpler model with just the bids Explorer at the front end, sitting on top of a metrics view, sitting on top of a source file. And you can see that similar structure in the panel down the left, where I have the dashboards, which is the end user content essentially, the metrics, the model, and the sources that it's depending on, even all the way down to the connectors and the underlying database supporting this data. Now, all of these files that are used for the end user have a graphical editor like this, but also the underlying code view that it depends on. It's similar for the Canvas dashboards, so it's a custom layout, but again, you can see the code that underlies that. For the metrics views, so let's take a look at the metrics for the bids model in this project I have. So we have the measures and dimensions. So we've got an easy kind of tabular editor here. So for less technical users, and even just anyone trying to get multiple changes done quickly, this is a very simple, tabular, fairly intuitive UI for editing your metrics. But again, you always have access to the code underneath. So seeing as we are using SQL to build out our metrics layer, if you just want to go in and edit some SQL, or even use an IDE and use a code copilot to make changes here, that's perfectly fine. And then there is the underlying source. So for that, you can see a little snapshot of some of the data. And you can also see the profiler down the right hand side, where you can see the range of values that are included, or see the timestamps available, and so on. Okay, so that is your Rill project. And one thing I would note is that you will probably have both a developer definition and a production definition of the data, by which I mean, if you look at the developer definition, it includes a sampling setting here, or it might be a row limit, or it might be a constrained time range. So this is all working locally. It means you can work really fast, which is fantastic. But for instance, you don't want to download 2 terabytes onto your machine just to do some work. So we split out the local developer partition from what is available on the production OLAP engine. So where you want to go from here is probably starting getting into these individual files. If you're working on an existing project, I would recommend opening up an Explorer, getting familiar with what is being exposed to the end user, and then start working your way down the stack to understand how this has been configured, how it has been built out on top of a metrics view, and how the connection has been set up to the source data.